I actually got to know her when I moved to Bangalore in May. So she was never a student that I actually taught, but her option was PSIR, and she used to bring answers. And when I say answers, 4 answers every day to get checked. And one of the, in both in Delhi and here, she's one of those students who has massive consistency. Every day, 4 answers she would write and get it checked. And then again this next day, and then again the next day. And that is one of the primary reasons that she's able to qualify in the second attempt itself. Even when I think the result came 1 week later, she was in the second campus and studying for this year prelims. One of the things you would require for UPSC preparation is consistency, continuous consistency of writing and learning and revising till the time you qualify. I think one of the things she may talk about is scheduling, and that would really be helpful for all of you in understanding on how to get that kind of consistency, making sure that you also, within your first and second attempt, do qualify.
This is fine? Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Hamsa. It is such an honor to get this bouquet from sir. He didn't have any obligation. For me, I was preparing for UPSC, and I knew that I had to write answers every day. But for him, without having any obligation to sit down and spend time with me and correct my answers every day, he showed, I think, more consistency than me in showing up, in coordinating with me. So it's an honor to receive the bouquet from him. Firstly, I want to say thank you to the entire RAU'S team, Himanshu sir, Daya sir, Jason sir, and everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Just a quick introduction about myself. I'm Hamsa Shree N A. I was born and brought up in Bengaluru, Karnataka, hence the RAU'S Bangalore campus. My background, just so that you know where you stand with respect to me and you can connect to me a little. I have done my computer science engineering. This was my second attempt. I started with the RAU'S foundation course when I was in my final year. That was during COVID, so I had to take online. But I started preparing for my final year. I think that's about it. My optional is PSIR. How many of you have chosen your optionals? Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, then we can probably talk a little bit about optional as well. This is your first attempt. How many of you are giving your attempt this year? Okay, 2025, most of you then? Okay, okay, great. So starting off, I'll give you a rough idea of how the exam goes because most of you are new. First stage is, of course, prelims that you guys would already be aware of. Next comes the mains and then interview. So for prelims, you'll have basic subjects. You'll have 2 papers. One is CSAT and one is General Studies Paper 1. Which you'll have to do all the subjects that you generally study with your foundation classes as well. I just had a few things that I wanted to touch upon so that you will also have a fulfilling session. At the end of it, you guys can reach out to me with any sort of questions, any area that I have not covered, and you guys can surely go ahead and ask me questions. Please don't hesitate because like sir said 1 week ago, I was just a student in your place. I used to come to RAU'S every day from morning to evening and I would study. So please don't hesitate, ask me any question, or you could probably even stop me in the middle and if you have any queries, I would love to answer them. Starting is your basic subjects. Most of the people from the time I've qualified, they've asked me a few questions. Most of them include, what about how do we start, right? Your classes are going on. One thing that I would surely, and this is something that sir and I have also spoken about, is building your basics. So definitely and most definitely attend your classes, make your notes, and try your best to revise your notes as much as you can. So that in the later stage of preparation, you can move on to standard books and newspaper as well, right? Do you guys do newspaper right now on a daily basis? Okay, to some extent. Okay, okay. When I initially started, I used to take about 2.5 hours or so for newspaper. Most of the people tend to give up on newspaper, especially in the era of current affairs magazines and analysis and everything. I would suggest that the only reason that I personally read newspaper for was comprehension in CSAT. Right now, CSAT is a game changer. I think you all know that, right? So comprehension in CSAT is, even if you pick up last year paper or before that, you'll see that comprehension is relatively easy. Can I know how many of you are from arts background? Science mostly then? Engineering? BCom? Okay. So comprehension is something that we will also have to work on, right? So one of the major advantages of reading newspaper is not just daily revision of whatever is happening, but also comprehension. You will be way better at comprehension. This year for my prelims, I didn't really do a lot of work for CSAT. I was a little overconfident because of the previous year attempt. So in the last 3 days, I think I only brushed up on math concepts, but still I was able to qualify mostly because of the comprehension knowledge that I already had. So I would suggest that you read the newspaper as much as possible. But other than that, taking up one current affairs magazine, I would say is important. Going forward, I'll tell you how I managed it. With respect to paper one, you can do your class notes as well as your foundation class notes and standard books. I think a lot of people ask me about NCRTs. NCRTs, I personally did economy and polity in the end, so that after revising my class notes and understanding all the concepts, I went through the NCRTs for a more conceptual understanding. I don't think you should spend too much time on that. What I more regressively used was geography NCRTs, +1 and +2. I mostly depended on that for my book. With respect to notes, I had my class notes. Up until now, I've been using the economy notes and the environment notes that I made 2 years-ish ago. So making class notes is something that I would suggest you do because it's in your handwriting, you will understand. And be efficient in it. After that, I think test series, I'm sure you'll have questions about test series. I personally did, as Sir said, I was very particular about being consistent. See, this exam, there are a few things you can control and few things you cannot control. What you can control is being hardworking, having a proper schedule and being planned so that you can study smart, as well as having consistency. So I consistently gave tests every day. I think even this year I will be giving next week starting. I will give at least 15 to 20 mocks every day. What you can do during this time is that you figure out what is your particular range of questions that you have to attempt. Or I would also give tests which were thematic. So if I'm doing polity at this point of time, I'm not just studying the theory. I'm also learning how to apply whatever I know to get the answer. Because now I'm sure you all know that prelims is not just about knowledge. It's not just about studying and taking in concepts. It's also about the art. It's a skill to apply whatever knowledge you have and get the correct answer, right? So that's a skill that you will be able to learn when you give a few mocks, when you start solving questions. So you'll have an idea of how to approach a topic, of what to study in a particular topic, and whether your own resources are enough. For that, you'll have to do PYQs as well. So these are some things that I did, which made a huge difference. And other than that, I also did my, I think I mentioned Current Affairs magazine, right? I used the Compass from RAU'S as well as Focus from RAU'S. Focus every month I used to do 2 to 3 iterations of Focus. So my schedule would be, I would give maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours for Focus every day and maybe complete 10, 12 pages. But even though it looks difficult on a daily basis, if you can do it, there's nothing like it because if you've solved PYQs, I'm not sure you would have yet. But you'll see a question for Wolbachia regarding Wolbachia last year. A lot of people got confused, but I'd done so many revisions of the focus material as well as compass. The picture that they had given for the same topic, it came to my mind literally in the exam hall. This is just one instance. Such kind of instance happened again and again. So I think when you start reading Current Affairs Monthly magazine, right, it helps you strong. It helps making your basics strong, as well as it helps in multiple revisions of the same subject. I think revision is one other problem that we all face, right? Other than that, I think you have all not chosen optional, so I would like to talk a little bit about optional. First thing is, how did I choose? I think most of the information is generally available online, so I would want to tell you what I did. So that maybe if you can relate to me, you can pick whatever you think I did well. So my optional, one of the first criteria for choosing optional is your interest. An example is both my parents are professors in sociology, and I understood sociology as a subject, but I still felt more attracted by international affairs. My first preference is foreign services, so I felt like this is something that I would really like to do. So because of that, I took PSIR, Political Science and International Relations, hence my meeting with Sir. But one criteria for sure is your interest. Secondly, your background. A lot of people, this time I think AR1 is an electrical optional person, right? So you can take up options on the basis of your background. If you're from law I'm sure is available. So I think even mechanical and civil engineering is available. If you're interested, you can definitely go ahead with it. Other than that, what I would say is see how much material you can get or how much guidance you can get for your particular optional. A lot of people take up a slightly more rare optional and they end up not getting enough help. So I would say that if you can get some guidance for your chosen optional, nothing like it. These are three particular criteria that I would suggest one should consider before taking up an optional. With respect to my schedule, I only want to say this because it made such a huge difference. It helped me stay disciplined, consistent. I would give you just an idea. I had a Google Sheets spreadsheet, and I had days and dates. Every day I would have 5 sessions at least of 2 hours each. This was during the phase of my preparation where I could give the entire day to preparation. If you are attending classes, you can give class as one of the slots, right? So what I would do is, for example, spectrum. I'll pick up spectrum and I'll say modern history, maybe in 2 hours I can complete 40 pages. Spectrum has around 800 pages. So on average, that would be 20 days. I'll be able to complete my spectrum, right? What I would do is for 20 days, I would make a schedule for 20, 30 days. And I would add spectrum 1 to 40, 40 to 80, 80 to 120. It would take 5 minutes. I know it sounds big, but in the end, it pays you back. So it would take just hardly 5-10 minutes. Maybe you can sit 2 to 3 weeks once and make a schedule. So now I have 1 to 40. I have allotted that to spectrum, right? 3 days later, I will have a revision column in my revision schedule, and I'll revise the same thing. So revision is done. Every book I used to complete, including focus, including standard books, I used to complete with 3 revisions. This is a quote that I had one of my teachers tell me initially: do not pick up a book if you cannot read it for 3 times at least. If you're going to read a book for once, don't pick it up. There's high probability that you'll not be able to absorb it. Of course, for your personal interest, go ahead. But I don't think it will help the exam, especially now that the questions have become far more analytical than just knowledge-based. This is one thing. Newspaper focus. That's about it. One last thing that I would want to highlight on is your mental health and your own personal journey as you're preparing for this exam. I'm sure all of us come from very different backgrounds and we have a lot of things at stake. I had a job in the corporate sector, which I had to leave and come to the preparation. You'll be dependent on people economically, or you'll have your own thing going on parallelly, etc. So things can feel a little heavy when you're in this phase, right? I think one of the ways that I dealt with it is by having healthy friends around. Even if I'm not meeting my friends on a daily basis or spending too much time with them, having a schedule helped me make time for my friends. So what I would do is, this is another thing that I think worked well for me. If I can complete, for example, I gave spectrum 40 pages, right? If I can complete 40 pages, I would mark green. If I can complete only 10 or 20 pages, I would mark orange. So I can track myself. I can see how much I've completed, how much I've revised, and how much is remaining. And what I'm doing in this process is I'm not thinking, okay, prelims is 1.5 months ahead. Because I am the kind of person who will only study last minute. So in my mind, it's not prelims is 1 month later, I have so much time. It's in my mind, I have to finish spectrum in 3 days. So I'm putting pressure upon myself to study and to show up. So that's one thing. And second thing, if I'm not able to perform for a long time, I know that mentally I'm exhausted. So if I see a lot of oranges and a lot of reds, I know that I need to take a break. So I would meet my friend, go out, treat myself. Whatever it is you have to do, you can do. Watch a movie, whatever it is. So I think this way you'll not feel guilty about taking a break. This is one thing that I think everybody faces. You're not here, you're not there. Even if you're with your friends, a lot of times you'll feel like, okay, I should be studying. Maybe I'm not using my time well. So when you have a plan and when you know that you're on track, spending time with your loved ones will not be difficult, right? So that is one thing that I would say is very important. Thirdly, take assistance from faculty. As an online student, former online student, this is one problem that I faced continuously, that I didn't have anyone to talk to or anyone to ask questions to. So being able to come to this campus, in my first attempt, I prepared from my home. Second attempt, I came here, started using the study halls. I was one of the first people who came in the morning and one of the last people to leave in the night. And I would constantly bug sir and Himanshu sir and everybody. So that's something that I think you should do. If you have a question, just go ahead and ask it. I don't think you should be scared. They are very welcoming, very understanding people. So I think gaining that help will give you a sense of direction. So these are some of the things that I did. I think that's about it I had to say. I don't want to bore you guys anymore. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask me. So the question that we got is, so many people are attempting prelims and they all have their own way of attempting the exam. What did you do differently, or what did you do because you qualified, right? One of the first things is, I think I continuously gave mocks, right? I really believe that your brain is an organ that can be trained. So it requires training for you to be able to have one particular set of knowledge and use that and get the answer. So consistently, I used to come here 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock plus 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. The same prelims exam timings is there, no? At that particular point of time, I would come to the exam hall. I mean, the class B, class C, study hall, whatever is available. I would sit exactly at 9 o'clock and finish my paper at 11 o'clock and do an analysis. I did this over 20 days. Every single test that was available, I took it. This helped train my brain to use whatever knowledge I have to give better answers. This gave me revisions and this gave me the best bracket of questions that I have to attempt. Secondly, the current affairs magazine that I would not have a backlog of, I did not have any backlog with respect to current affairs, especially the magazines. Thirdly, I would really utilize my time well. If I'm walking to RAU'S, I would be listening to current affairs analysis of anybody that you like, any YouTube channel that you like. Or if I'm getting ready, I would be listening to any form of input that you will have, especially before prelims. I think it will help a lot, right? And then one more thing I did was have proper peer group around me. I had a friend and we had so much fun revising. I think that's something that we have to learn to do to make your studies fun. People wouldn't even realize that we are studying, but we would be, I think you've all heard of the method of active recall, where you don't just read, you try and recall. So this is something that me and my friend would do. I was good at technical subjects like science and technology, space, these kind of things. And she would be good at history, geography. We would quiz each other. Even if we are going out for lunch, we're going out for coffee, whatever it is, we would quiz each other. So we made learning fun. I used to play this little game with my brother also. We would find places on maps, whoever finds it fastest. So these are some of the things that I did to make studying fun. So studying, I don't think I ever took it as an obligation. I understand that there are some times where you feel like, okay, there's so much pressure, but trying to ease it on yourself is great. Also, timing your schedule. So for instance, I'm really good. I mean, I really like solving math questions. So late in the night when I'm feeling sleepy, I used to solve math. Again, it's a personal decision. You should know yourself. You should know what you like. You should know what you don't. Early in the morning, if you're sleepy, you can maybe take a walk and watch a class. So it depends on you. You don't have to blindly listen to anybody. Figuring out how to do this process for yourself in a way that you will enjoy the process and you will not take it as an obligation. You should not think of it like that. You should, I think, try and make the process as fun as possible. Those are some of the things that I think set me apart. Also, having the mindset. This is something that I think Shubham Kumar, one of the toppers previously, had also mentioned in his Telegram channel. Oh, this is something that I would also do. Follow toppers that I could relate to on their Telegram channels. So I'm getting notes. I'm getting a certain sense of guidance, which is very unfiltered, very honest guidance, right? So this is something that I did. And one quote that I think stayed with me in the exam hall as well, be bold like a lion and be smart like a fox. So I had a lot of friends during prelims only, a lot of them who attempted only 50 questions, 60 questions this time. I don't think that is a great strategy because uh, if you have figured out your own number, at least generally 70 questions is preferred. So 70 to 80 to 90, it might differ, but at least you have to be bold enough to answer 70 questions. These are some of the things that you should remember when you're going into the exam hall. Having that mental preparation. This time the prelims paper was difficult, right? 10 questions down the line, I realized I knew only one question properly. So I had to sit down and say, Hamsa, don't be scared. You have prepared. If it's difficult for you, the cutoff will come down. It will be difficult for everybody. One only, two only, three only, those kind of questions were there. So you have to prepare well enough that at the point of exam, you can sit down and say, if it's difficult for me, it's difficult for everyone because you know you've done the preparation. Right? So I had to sit down and say, and this is another thing also that I noticed in the exam, a lot of people didn't show up for CSAT. And this time, interestingly, most of the people who cleared CSAT also cleared paper one, right? The cutoff has come down really low. So be bold like a lion and be smart like a fox. And have that topper mentality. When you go in like an officer. Even if you become an IAS officer, IPS officer, whatever it is, when you get into bureaucracy, you'll not have everything you need at your hand. You'll have to manage resources. You'll have to be consistent. You'll have to make decisions and take responsibility for it, right? So I think having that mindset of, okay, whatever comes ahead, I will do the best with what I have. Having that sort of an approach helps a lot in the exam. Yeah. And any other questions? Yeah. Sure. Okay. I think getting that mindset is really difficult initially, right? I used to take 3 hours to read newspaper sometimes. So I think only having a schedule will make a huge difference. Initially, I used to think, okay, making a schedule, I'll anyways not do it. What is the point of doing it? It's taking too much time and all of that. But once you sit down and start making a schedule, I think it makes a huge difference in terms of staying consistent for a long time is difficult, right? But you can stay consistent for a week and complete maybe half of spectrum. That you can still do. So having that mental change of, okay, the exam is so far away, to, okay, I have to complete my target in the next week. Having that short-term target will really change your mindset, I think. So having a proper schedule will change. Secondly, have your peers around you who are also being faithful to the preparation, right? Who are also preparing seriously, who are giving in their hard work and their time to the exam. You are an average of the top 5 people you spend time with, ideally speaking. So if you spend time with people who are also giving proper time to this exam, naturally you will come up to their level. So I think those two things changed a lot of my preparation. The question is, with respect to CSAT, what is that one point that you would say is really important, right? CSAT, the easiest and sure-shot strategy is to get all the lower-hanging fruits. What happens most of the time is people from the arts background, they mostly rely on comprehension. People from the science background, they mostly rely on math. I don't think that's a great strategy to have because you never know. Last year, comprehension was relatively easy. Math was difficult. Some other year, comprehension will become a little more difficult. Math will be easy. And UPSC is, it's not a commission that really hates us, right? So they will have some sense of balance. So I think that getting the low-hanging fruits, getting all the questions that are easy and that you're comfortable with will get you the best result. Here, you don't have to score 200 on 200. It's not even possible. So you have to reach that 66. To reach that comfortable number of 66, this time, like I said, I had hardly done any preparation for CSAT. Maybe a few mocks I would have given here and there. And otherwise, only in the last couple of days, I did a little bit of math. What helped me was having this approach of, I'm not going to lean towards comprehension. I'm not going to depend only on math. I'm going to do whatever I can. So that helps a lot. Secondly, newspaper reading for comprehension. That I think is really important. And for math, especially for students who are not comfortable with math, I would say practice is the key. As much as possible. Why practice is the key is that math requires a certain thinking skill, right? That you will develop only when you start solving questions. So I would say practice is the key, and training your brain to think according to the particular question will be important. You pick up whatever topics you're comfortable with. You can go with calendar, patterns, clock, maybe easy questions of permutation combinations, speed, time, distance, uphill, downhill, upstream, downstream, directions. These kind of questions are mostly there. And these are solvable. So you pick up all of these. And another thing is, go through the entire question paper. This is one of the reasons you have to give mocks again, because you should be able to go through every single question and decide if you know the concept or not. Don't leave any question thinking, okay, I don't know this. Genuinely try to solve the question using your logic or using your concepts, and only then, if you can't solve it, then leave it, right? But this will require a little bit of time management, which will come with practice. So don't leave any particular topic. Even in maths, even in comprehension, pick up easy questions and pick up easy topics. Practice them. I think that will really help. This is personally speaking, I was taking the classes when I had my college. I was in my final year. I had picked up classes which started at 3 o'clock, 3 to 8:30. So I would have college in the morning, and then I would have classes in the evening. So that is, and I would always attend my classes very diligently. This is something that I had trained myself to do. I have to attend every class with my video on. I'll give you a couple of instances in my modern history. Initially, I would zone out. I'm listening to the class, but I'm not really listening. And sir would know. So sir would call my name, Hamsa, concentrate. So I think having that sense of accountability, attending your classes faithfully will change a lot. But what I mostly did was, I think you can plan your schedule in such a way, because this is not something that I personally faced when I started doing my scheduling. I had mostly finished my classes. I had very few classes. I would schedule my classes, my overall schedule around my classes. So if I'm having, I think, what time do you have your classes at, if I may? 8 to? 8 to 3. Okay. So if I had this schedule, normally I am an early bird. So I wake up, I used to wake up 4:30-ish before prelims, like 1 month before prelims, I used to wake up. I would do maybe 1 or 2 classes, so maybe revise, if I were you, I would revise yesterday's class notes in the morning. I know it sounds crazy, but I think I would do it. So in the morning, I would revise the classes, and then post 3, I would have a current affairs session, read the newspaper, do DNS, and finish your focus. So you're revising. If you want to, if you're feeling motivated enough, you can take up a standard book and start revising of whatever classes are going on. But I think revising your class notes as well as doing current affairs is really important. Okay. Abhishek Pratap, I think you can unmute yourself.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Congratulations, first of all. And I have one question for you, ma'am. What is the importance of PYQ for both prelims and mains, and also CSAT? What is the take on this of you?
Okay. First of all, thank you. With respect to the congratulations and PYQs. I think it's undeniable, right? The kind of importance that PYQs have. You must solve PYQs, if possible, several times. Firstly, they'll help you understand the mindset of UPSC, how it's changing, and how UPSC is catching up with us as the aspirant community, right? Secondly, you'll understand which topics have more importance. For instance, for ancient and medieval history, I used to do only Tamil Nadu textbook. But Buddhism, Jainism, the Bhakti, Sufi movements, these are important concepts and they go in depth, right? So what you do is you take an extra source and you go deeper with respect to some of the topics. So doing PYQs will help you identify which topics are important and how UPSC is approaching them. Thirdly, there are several instances, I'm sure you'll find YouTube videos as well, wherein a particular option from a previous year question was taken and a question was made on that particular option. So I would suggest, if you're going through PYQs, go for a PYQ analysis and look up the options as well. See why they asked, and it'll give you a sense of importance of static subjects, as well as current affairs. I think Gucci was in news for some time. So that came in the PYQs, right? So it will give you the relevance of what sort of current affairs you should read and how you should approach the newspaper, as well as how you can manage your static subjects. I think this is the importance of PYQs. And also, oh, I'm so sorry. Just one more thing. Another thing that you can do is right before the exam. So you have prelims in maybe 3-4 days. You can start solving just a few PYQs for revision. That's not the first time you solve PYQs. You do a revision of the PYQs so that you get into the mindset of how UPSC thinks and how the questions are framed. I think that will help a lot. In that sense, you can also look up a few question papers of the particular year, CAPF, other exams that UPSC conducts, right? You will get a sense of where UPSC is going with its thought process and the kind of questions that are asked.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, one more question. As we are a RAU'S student, we got the access of QIP course. So how we utilize this course, particularly in our preparation, we should watch after foundation, or we start watching or utilizing this course during our foundation, and how it helped you?
Yes. I think QIP is such an exceptional process that one goes through. QIP is really, really important in sense of enabling us to go through the entire portions without breaking our head too much. So it helps you in revision, and a thorough revision at that. So economy PYQ personally has helped me so much. I think I personally mailed Basava sir as well. Incredible. And even the current affairs classes that go on a weekly basis, right? I on a personal note, I would attend them even before attending my foundational. So even if you don't understand, you'll have a hang of the keywords, you'll have a hang of what the subject is, right? So when you do attend your foundational course, you'll get a better idea of what the teacher is trying to say and how you can use it for your exam. So in that sense, QIP is really good. The PPTs that teachers give, my ethics this time, my mains, I think I had made notes out of the PPTs that QIP sir had given us. And the notes were only of 5-6 pages, and that is what I revised before the exam, and I got 119 in this year ethics paper. It's not a bad score at all, it's pretty decent. And that was out of just 6 pages of notes that I had made out of QIP PPTs. And even for mains and for prelims, I only did Basava sir's PPTs for final revision, as well as one revision of the compass. So I think QIP has been an exceptional, I think, initiative that has helped me a lot.
Ma'am, one more thing. We also got some mentors, dedicated mentors for our preparation. So how to talk to them, and how we are going to sit with them, and how it helped you, and how we can take help from them.
Yes, sir. With respect to mentors, I think having during my first year of preparation, when I didn't clear the prelims first time, I definitely felt a shortage of somebody that I could reach out to, especially because my course was online as well. I was sitting at home and I felt like I wish I had someone to reach out to. But I think mentorship courses, the mentorship program is really helpful in sense of giving you a sense of direction. So at any point of time, you feel like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm going off track. You can always reach back and say, okay, what can I do? So especially during my mains preparation, I would constantly reach out to Ankit sir, Abhishek sir. All of these people would get on call at any point of time, Jakrit sir, all of them. And not only would they look at my questions and see what kind of answers I've written, how I can improve them, but also give me a sense of, okay, maybe this you can do right now, and later you can keep this. So they'll give you a sense of, okay, what is important, what is not, and how I can approach the overall subject as a whole. So I think mentorship is something that everyone should consider, at least for the sense of accountability. It would be a mix of everything. Mostly, sir would ask me to focus on PYQs, as well as the test series that RAU'S provides as well. RAU'S test series is pretty good, I think. So you can definitely go ahead and I would practice RAU'S papers for PSIR, and other papers once in a while. I would have a mix, because you can't restrict yourself to only one particular line of thought. So if you're doing decently well in 3-4 different point of views, then I think you can be confident enough, right, of your own level of preparation. So in that sense, I would do RAU'S, and I would do PYQs and a few other questions that I can find online as well. Current affairs, last year I revised focus materials of around 8 to 9 months. The aim was 10 months, but I don't think I had enough time. 8 to 9 months of focus I did in the last 2 weeks of revision. I gave 3-4 days and I just went through all the focus materials, just topic wise. Okay, this is the topic, I have to revise this. InVITs for economy, for instance, or whatever it is. Topic wise you can go, or subject wise you can go. Last, I think 8 to 9 months of focus I had revised. With respect to government documents, I don't think I used any particular government documents. RAU'S has a great system of filtering it out. Economic survey as well as budget, Basava sir has taken it. Government schemes, again, I think there is a compilation, right, of government schemes. I use that only for prelims. And second ARC report, you will find summaries. I don't think I had enough time because it was my first mains. Especially, I think most people study second ARC before mains, right? So for mains, I didn't have enough time and I didn't want to go through the entire government document. So I went through the compilation that you can find online. No. With respect to newspapers, I started them initially only. I think there's no lack of evidence with respect to the importance of newspaper. So I would read newspaper. Initially, it was difficult for me, so I used to follow DNH. RAU'S will release a document of what are the important headlines, right? I started off with that. So whatever articles are there, I used to read. I would find really difficult. Maybe 1 or 2 articles I would leave, but at least the explain page of Indian Express or the articles in Hindu, I used to read. So those are, I think, important. But over time, you will pick it up. It's natural for you. I don't think I use DNH anymore, although I did use it in the earlier times. Now I can figure out which article is important and how to use it. Yeah. Okay. With respect, my own notes, I think that's a personal decision that people have to make for themselves. I know a lot of people who cannot remember things unless and until it's in their own handwriting and stuff. I'm not like that. I come from an engineering background, so I used to take somebody else's notes. Last minute, I used to study. So I think something similar I did even in UPSC. The only kind of notes that I did make was before prelims, I did a sort of year-wise notes for ancient and medieval, because I would find it difficult to have to keep a track of what happened and when. So I would have 2 pages. I just had 2 pages of notes for ancient and medieval, left side for south, right side for north, and particular decade, particular year, what happened. So I have an idea of, okay, when did Buddha come? When did this king speak, have an interaction? When did Ashoka have an interaction with Mahavira? So these kind of questions sometimes are asked in UPSC. So just to have a bird's eye view of what happened when, I had a 2-page notes for ancient and medieval. Other than that, I made notes for ethics because I thought that it's important to have notes for ethics from the PPTs that Faizan sir had given. Other than that, I don't think I really did make any notes. Even though I did when I was studying, I don't think I used them. If I had to make notes, I would have it in the intention of trying to reduce and cram up a lot of topics in such a way that I can remember a pictorial representation of what is happening. I can't say if they are required or not, but I didn't use them. So I mostly, because I had already had a relationship with RAU'S, I stuck to only their materials. I did PT 365 and Compass. There are people out there who use 365, Kurukshetra and Yojana. It's not like you shouldn't use them, but I stuck to RAU'S Compass. And I think it was good. So you want me to talk about how the paper was personally for me, my strengths and weaknesses, right? Right. My option is PSIR. So naturally, my knowledge in polity is a little more in-depth because it's expected of me. And I come from a computer science background. So my science and tech was decently good. Science and tech, geography, polity, Economy due to Basavasa's classes. Sure. Economy due to Basavasa's classes. These were subjects that I could manage. My memory is not very strong. So history, modern history, ancient, medieval, all of these, I felt that I was a little weak in it. So one of the ways that I tried to overcome this was, even if I'm walking, even if I'm getting ready, I would always have my earphone, and some sort of revision of modern history, ancient history would be going on in my ear. So that I'm not just working on my strengths, but I'm also trying not to flunk in my weaknesses, right? So I would try my best to listen to these words repeatedly. And again, I used to have this quiz with my friend, no? She would be like, no, this is the correct answer. No, that is the correct answer. So having that personal memory attached to it also helps a lot of times. So I would have these kind of things. But other than that, mostly wherever memory is involved, I'm a little weak. But I can understand, I have good conceptual understanding. So those kind of subjects I would still do well. In my college, I don't really have I wanted to be an IAS from childhood sort of a story. When I was in college, I started coding. I had to start sitting for placements. At that point of time, I kind of felt like, as much as I enjoyed coding, maybe I would want to do something which was more varied, because I don't think I would perform really well in a desk job, sitting from morning to evening and coding. I don't think I would really enjoy it. So I thought, okay, what are the other options I can have? That was one of the major questions that pushed me towards UPSC. Secondly, we all belong to this country. We've all seen the society. We've seen how things work. And there's always this hope and inspiration, right? If you can make things better for people, that would obviously be great. And UPSC has such wonderful opportunities to do that. So that was one of the major reasons I came here. Foreign services and administrative services require, even during college, I was very active in college clubs, and I would be very active in all kinds of performances, etc. So I felt like maybe that part of me could be put well into use in this field. So that's why I came towards UPSC, and that has been my approach as well. UPSC was not, this is the only thing I want to do. I always had the intention of becoming a person who's consistent, who's hardworking, who's like an officer. The fact that I'll clear the exam or not is almost secondary. It's easier for me to say this after clearing the exam. But even before, my focus was not really, okay, I need to clear UPSC. My focus was, I want to use this opportunity to be more consistent, to be more hardworking, to be smart, and to be good at whatever I do. That's a skill that I want to learn. So that was my approach. And I'm very grateful that I could clear UPSC, with all due respect. But I think that also helps keeping your mental health a little more healthy, right? You can't be, okay, this is my only optional, this is the only thing I have to do, otherwise I'm a loser. Those kind of thoughts you shouldn't get. You are a person who's unique to yourself. And as someone who has cleared the exam and who has met so many people during the interview and mains, people who have given the exam multiple times, there is an aspect to this exam which cannot be controlled. You cannot control how the mood of the person is who's correcting your paper in mains. You cannot control the board that you get in the interview. You cannot control how the day goes. So those are some of the things that might not work in your favor, and that's okay. What you can control is what sort of a person you are. So that character is what pushed me towards UPSC, and I think that also got me through the exam. That's about it. Yeah, it's a nice question. Thank you for asking. Please give tips to study efficiently subjects like art and culture and medieval history. These are really boring and confusing subjects. Please. This is a little personal, but the first, I had picked up a PDF of ancient and art and culture. I tried to read it, okay? That's how I normally work. I thought, okay, 2 hours I'll finish 30 pages. Post 2 hours, I called my mom and I started crying. I really thought I'm not going to make it through this exam. I cannot do art and culture. I cannot remember anything. This was at a point of time where I'd completed ancient and medieval. So art and culture mostly relies on the knowledge that you already have from ancient and medieval, right? So I had done the subject, but I can't recall anything. So this is something that is very personal to me. And I called my mom and I started crying and I didn't know what to do. But second time, but then even if I'm just reading, I went ahead and I did it. Then second time when I came back, I could recognize just a few words. And I think in ancient art and culture, especially, having a pictorial idea of what is happening, of whatever you're reading, it helps. Especially chaityas, viharas, the structures, those, so anyway you can cover through the images, and the type of temples, all of that. Those you can anyway cover through the images. The rest, with respect to keywords and everything, I think multiple revisions and multiple reading, maybe having quizzes with your friends, giving several mocks, those things will help. But I think that's all you can do, right? It's difficult for everybody, and that's okay. You'll have your own strengths, you'll have your own weaknesses, so that's okay. We can manage that, I think. What I actually, in fact, I relate with you. I wasn't really sure about political science part of it, and I was only attracted by the international part of it initially. So, but let me tell you, having the same sort of mindset, it's not too boring. And in another sense, what other options you have also matters. For me, the other options were sociology, psychology, these kind of subjects. So you'll have to go through more theoretical subjects anyway. Political science and international relations has the perk of having something that's interesting as well as something that you'll have to memorize. So maybe this part, if you can manage well, you don't have to take an optional that is entirely more theoretical. If you're into theoretical subjects, that's great, but I would want something that's more like international affairs. So this was a game changer for me, international affairs, but political science is manageable. As someone who has read the optional, it's not bad at all. I think Sir made it much more easy for me. But and I didn't really take any coaching as well for the basic subject. I would do test series only. So it's manageable. It's not bad at all. You can go through these syllabus ones, maybe a few previous year questions. Okay. It's I think it's manageable. I mean, if you're not a theoretical person, this is your best bet because most of the other optionals are highly theoretical. Okay. You want me to market PSIR? I can do it. PSIR, like I said, I had a background in computer science and I had a lot of familiarity with sociology, but PSIR is one subject that will cover a lot of your GS topics, right? So even in last year prelims, there was one question on principles of natural justice. That is just one example. I can give you several, where it was far easier for me to find out the answer than a person who did not have a PSIR background. Maybe if the person had done NCRTs also really well, probably, but it gives you such a strong base. You can use PSIR in ethics. You can use PSIR because you will quote Plato, Socrates, all of these people. You can use PSIR in paper 2, polity. You can use it in IR answers. So a lot of your GS chunk is covered. Especially for me, I was writing my mains for the first time. And I was studying with people who were writing mains third time, fourth time, etc. So it was really intimidating for me. But what worked out well in my favor was that my option was PSIR and I was interested. So I had a huge chunk of GS2, GS3, GS4 covered. GS2 also, I think I scored 109. I couldn't revise it too much as a subject, but I got good score because of PSIR background. So the political science, I think that will cover it, right? Because you have to study it anyway as a part of GS. You might as well cover it in much more depth with PSIR. Secondly, If you're a kind of person who does not like to have too much theory, PSIR is great. It has a great balance of both theory and things you have to remember, as well as technical things. Thirdly, it will help you keep much better track of current affairs. Because you know what is happening in IR right now, especially most of the current affairs is related to IR, right? You'll have a far deeper understanding of what things are and how they work with IR as your optional. So those are some of the things that I think are great about PSIR. Sure. Just to give you a rough idea, I would have columns and rows, right? Just a Google Sheets. I would have dates, days, and 4 columns or 5 columns, depending on how I'm feeling at that particular point of time. So I have prelims in 2 months, I'll naturally have 5 columns. I have prelims in maybe 6-7 months, I'll have 4 columns because the stress is not so high, right? So I'll have 4 columns of 2 hours each. First column, I'll write spectrum. Second column, for instance, Lakshmikant. Third column for optional. Fourth column for current affairs. Then I'll have 3 more columns. This is the revision schedule. So here I'll do 40 pages of spectrum, 30 pages of political science, 50 pages of my PSIR notes maybe, and then current affairs is anyway there. Then revision schedule. So this goes with 0 to 40, 40 to 80, 80 to 120. From here, it is 0 to 40. So 3 days later, I'm revising whatever I studied 3 days early on. Okay, and the color scheme would be green for whatever I've completed, orange if I've completed half and half, and red if I haven't touched it. There were times when I didn't follow through, and that's okay, because every 2 or 3 weeks you'll redo it anyway. Don't go too easy on yourself. Be disciplined. But at the same time, you can have almost like our constitution, where amendment is not too easy, but not too difficult. You have a balance between the both, right? So you can amend your schedule as you see fit, with responsibility and having faith in the preparation that you're having. And if I saw a lot of oranges and reds, I would take a break. I would maybe go home, meet my friends. But if I see a lot of greens, I would take that as a motivation, treat myself, give a couple of extra rows, and say, okay, maybe this also I can be greedy at that point of time. I think you can totally be greedy with respect to your preparation. Give 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, as much as you can. And this is something that I also asked about a lot. Motivation. I think there's not much to motivation. We should concentrate more on discipline. It sounds very old school, but it works. So my approach was, on a normal day, I would study to, I would have at least 4 to 5 slots, which means 7 hours, average, at least 7 to 8 hours. If I'm motivated, I will study extra in the early morning, and I will study extra late into the night. So my motivation will push me further, but my motivation will not be the only thing which will make me work. So you do your 7 to 8 hours of study every day, and if you're motivated, you do more. I think that's the approach that people should have. This is, again, something that I felt very personally. It's a very grueling process for you to undergo the process of writing mains. You have to give, I think, 5 papers in a matter of 3 days. Physically, it's very difficult. You go to the exam center, you sit down, you prepare late into the night, early morning. You come back and you start writing. A lot of times you start getting corns on your hand, or you start getting cuts, these kind of things, right? But then to go through that and then come to the other side and say, okay, I went through that and I managed. Not bad at all, right? It gives you a great sense of self-confidence. So the approach mostly with respect to answer writing in mains is to complete the paper. Ethics, I think I scored well mostly because I completed the paper a lot, especially ethics, because a lot of people, that is the last paper that you'll write over the course of 3 days. So ethics, at least you should aim to, I mean, all subjects you should aim to answer all the questions, firstly. Secondly, I think doing a daily consistent practice will help level up. Even though you don't really see it in a physical sense, You'll not feel it in you, but you'll naturally, you would have improved. The way your brain thinks, the way you come to conclusion as to, okay, this is what I have to write for introduction, this is what I have to write for conclusion, and this will be the points that I put forth. And to have that framework, right, that will be improved by consistency. You maybe write 3 or 4, 5 questions, whatever you can on a daily basis, and you'll figure out what content I have to put in what question, and what would be the appropriate introduction as well as conclusion for a particular question. So that would be the most important parts. Secondly, this is something that I approach sir with, so my answers are not perfect. Initially, my answers were not even relevant. So the bar is really low for most people. So I think answer writing is not a step key. I didn't know answer writing, now I know answer writing. It's not like that. It's a gradual process. Initially, your answers are not even relevant. Question is asking something, you're writing something. So you make your answers relevant. Then you start working on your introduction. You have a good introduction which fits the question. Initially, you were only maybe defining one keyword in the question. Now you're writing something that the question is actually asking that is relevant to the question. So it's a gradual process, it's a gradient. You were writing irrelevant questions, now you're writing relevant answers, but your introduction and conclusion can use some work. So it's a gradual process, and I think it takes some time, but once you get the hang of it, it's good. You're good to go. You can give a few mocks, and that's about it. That's about it. Is there anything in particular you want me to answer? With respect to writing speed, my writing was not bad with respect to my English and grammar. I had some habit of writing, but initially I used to take 30 minutes to write one question. That is also because I was in the initial stages of my preparation. And not only did I not revise, I didn't even know what to write for a particular question. And I came from a computer science background. I tried writing polity answers. Clearly not a great idea. So I would find it a little difficult initially, but when you start giving continuous mocks, right, your time limit will naturally come down. You have to, initially I started with maybe 1 or 2 questions per day. So I would take 30 minutes, 40 minutes sometimes. Abhishek sir used to correct my answers sometimes, but then later over time, when you start giving mocks, right, that time you'll naturally become adjusted to thinking faster. So you and I used to give maybe half a mock in 3 hours. Then over time, I started giving proper mocks within time. But even probably because I had very little time, I couldn't complete a lot of my mock papers, and I knew that it would be a problem for me. So I was very conscious of that in the exam hall. I had to be really fast. I had to think really fast. So I would aim to finish the paper 10 minutes before only. Naturally, extra 10 minutes you'll anyway take, so you'll finish it on time. That was the approach I had mostly. But that's right, 7 minutes, 6.5-ish minutes per question is ideal. Ma'am, how is your approach to some bouncer questions in mains exam? For example, RAU'S in GS1. Okay. Bouncer questions are there to, to leave, right? With respect to prelims, you can totally leave them. With respect to mains, I would say that even if you are not entirely sure of what the question demands, first thing is manage your time. What I did with respect to this question was, I left that question, I folded the sheet just a little in the end, and I went through the entire paper. Then I thought if I had the time, I'll come back to it and write. Because if I don't know a question, and if I'm wasting my time trying to cook something up, and if that takes my time away from a question that I do know and that can get me marks, that is a compromise that I should not be ready to make. So as long as you're not compromising with your other questions that you are aware of, you can go ahead and attempt it, because there is no negative marking in mains. But I did not have enough time, as I said. This was my first mains. I had a little bit of a problem with time management. So I folded the sheet. In the end, I could not go back to it. But when I did speak to teachers later on, and I scored 90 something in GS1, so it's not too bad. What that means is that I've performed decently well in other questions. So as long as your attempt at a bouncer question is not taking your time away from questions that you already know, you should be able to answer them. Yeah. Since I will also be attempting prelims this time, I think this is indirectly asking for my schedule. Uh, I would love to share it. I have right now I've allocated, at this point I'm done with economy. I'm done with a little bit of modern history, most of polity, etc. So I think I started a few days ago. I give 2 days because I already have the foundation. This is only if you already have the foundation. You can give 2 days per subject, quickly cover it. And then from next week, I'm going to start with mocks. For the next 2.5 or so weeks, I will give mocks because I've gotten out of practice of answering MCQs, right? So I need to get back into that mode of MCQs. So I will be giving quite a few mocks, and revision also I'll be doing along with that. CSAT papers also I have not practiced CSAT as of yet. And CSAT will be a game changer this time also. So CSAT is something that I would want to work on. I'll give quite a few mocks on that. And then last 2 weeks I'll keep for revision. I have all the focus books, compass, and then my class notes. These are the things that I will be revising in the last 2 weeks. That is my schedule. And then one more thing that I forgot to mention is I will be doing question papers, open test series, whatever you can find. Question papers from UPSC. I think CAPF, CDS exams, their question papers are out. So maybe you can take a look at them so that you know what kind of questions can be expected, and PYQs, of course. Are there any more questions? If there are, you can unmute yourself or post them on the chat box. Right. The interview process generally speaking, there are several boards, right? Your interview process starts with mostly current affairs. This time I started reading a little bit of Indian Express as well. Up until the mains results are out, you go a little easy. You're like, oh, I don't know if I cleared mains, if I don't know if I have to prepare for interview. So you go a little easy, but once the results are out, you have to start preparing solidly. Interview is a difficult phase. What makes it difficult is the fact that you're competing with a lot of officers. So I met a lot of IRS officers, IPS officers, IAS officers, all of them who are attempting again. So what happens is your competition becomes really concentrated. Your competition is at least for me this time, because this was my first interview, I felt like most of them were better than me. This is something that I constantly told, sir, they're all intelligent, sir, they're all having the experience. How should I go about it? So this is the most difficult part, I think, for me. This was the most difficult part for me. But otherwise, if you already have decently good social skills, you have a lot of things covered in the interview. What you have to do is come up with ways in which you can precisely express yourself. And what happens is during the interview phase, a lot of institutes will open up free mocks that you can go ahead and take for gaining a sort of experience as to how you can face the real board, right? Another thing that I think was different was initially when I heard, okay, some judge is coming as a panel member of this institute, or some officer, IAS officers. You start meeting officers at this point of time, right? So it gets really intimidating. But the thing about interviews is when you start giving mocks, you would have met these kind of people with the same mentality, with the same similar personalities already through your mocks. It becomes a little more easy in the main interview process. RAU'S interview, as I think I have given that as well. They are really good at putting you under pressure. I think their focus is not just to emulate the original interview, but put you under extra pressure so that the original interview will feel easy for you later on. That's the approach. Many institutes will have their own sense of approach. And some institutes will also they'll give you the marks that they expect you to get and everything, but that doesn't really work out in the end. It's a great feeling. You know, you enter the UPSC building, you enter the Bhavan, you get to see these, you get to go to Delhi and see all of these places. So it's a wonderful experience, something that you'll cherish for a really long time, especially if you haven't, if you're not from Delhi, you get to go on a tour and you have the UPSC museum as well. It's a very transformative experience, I think. With respect to the technical details of the interview, it will change from person to person, right? My background was computer science. So they asked me questions about chips, and processors. And then cybersecurity. These were some of the themes that were highlighted in my interview. Other than that, from political science optional, mostly what happens in the interview hall is, because they're trying to see your personality, they try and stay in within subjects that you are comfortable with. Your hobbies, your DAF, mostly your leadership roles. They'll ask you a little bit of that if you have put any, your sports background or your optional. For me, they asked, I think they asked questions about everything that I think I had put in the DAF. My hometown, there were questions. My interests, there were questions. There were questions on my optional. Questions on optional was expected anyway because PSIR. And then there was questions on current affairs also. General current affairs that at least that they think are important in the last 2-3 months. They'll surely go ahead and ask questions on that. You can expect a huge variety, and you'll have 5 different people. So all of them have come with their own experience, and they have come with their own fields. Some of them would have worked for WHO. Some of them would have worked for the mining sector. Some of them would have worked as a chief secretary to some state. So it depends, right? Whatever they are comfortable with, they'll choose and they'll ask you. But most of the questions they're mostly relevant to you, or at least current affairs. I think the questions generally, they don't go too technical. He explained this particular algorithm in this point of cybersecurity. That's not the kind of questions. They'll ask, why do we see a problem in cybersecurity? Why do we have deepfakes that are coming up? And what can we do? You're not sitting there as a computer science student. You're sitting there as a computer science student who's aiming to get into the bureaucracy. So what is relevant for you is, for me, the question about microchips was, name a few companies that manufacture microchips. So I said a few companies that I could think of: Taiwan, Samsung, Nvidia was in stock at that point of time. So whatever I could recall at that point of time, I said. And then she took that to IR. She said, does China have dependency on Taiwan for microprocessing chips? And so those kind of questions. They don't just ask really technical details about it unless you call for it. The conversation will generally not call for it, but sometimes there are obviously bounces and you can say, I'm not aware of it, and that's okay. And then the cybersecurity question was like this only. How can we improve our cybersecurity infrastructure? Those kind of questions. So I went ahead and he asked me, tell me a few cybersecurity threats. So I started talking about phishing, smishing, ransomware, these kind of things. And these kind of things you'll anyway study because you'll have so much gap, right? After the result and before the interview. That's the point of time where you study your graduation subject, a little bit of your and you can give mocks also. So you'll understand the nature of questions that are being asked, because AI is in use anyway. So it's expected that as a computer science student, you're aware of artificial intelligence, cloud computing, these kind of things. So that's what is asked mostly. I think how you define far-fetched questions is really important. I don't think there were any far-fetched questions, but sometimes they do ask some facts-related questions. For instance, this time, with respect to the China-Taiwan question only, they asked, does China have a trade deficit or a trade surplus with Taiwan? I was not aware of the numbers of their trade. So I said, ma'am, I'm not aware of the numbers precisely, but I understand that China is strategically dependent on Taiwan for the production of semiconductor chips. That's about it. But I think another instance that I could give is about, ma'am asked me about Foxconn CEO, and that after recounting that question to quite a few teachers as well, all of them had different things to say about it. So I still don't know what her intention was for why she asked me that question. So there are some questions, and that's okay. So it shouldn't be that much of an issue. I think foundation course helps. That's one of the reasons I took foundation course, because I had lost touch with polity, economy, etc. So foundation course definitely helps. Other than that, I think quite a few engineers and people from BCom background and everything, they're they're clearing. So if somebody else from a similar background that I'm coming from can clear the exam, then I also should be able to. This time, the toppers in electrical engineer, there are toppers from computer science engineering as well, IITs and stuff, right? So I think it's okay. It will take some time. Uh, Again, anything new that you have to learn will be a little difficult in the start, right? Driving, swimming, walking, reading this also, I think it'll be difficult in the start, but once you get hang of it, once you get a conceptual understanding, once you build your foundation, it should be easy. Uh, you are the same as the next person, and you have a lot of scope for exploring your own subject. Like I was naturally good at science and tech, so if your background is law, you will naturally be good at polity, or if your background is commerce, you will be decently good at economy, right? So the exam itself gives a level playing field with respect to what your own strengths and weaknesses can be. Is it okay to read RAU'S Current Affairs Yearly Compilation rather than 10 months focus magazines? I can't really say because I didn't do that. I had already read the focus magazines and I revised them. And I just, what I can surely tell you is these compilations will become a little too much. You get saturated if you have no background. So reading RAU'S monthly compilations will prepare you for what the yearly compilation will give you. You will not feel like it's too much. It becomes easier for you to read the uh, focus. I mean, if you're already reading focus, then it becomes easy for you to read the compass compilation. If only compass is enough or not, I can't tell. It depends on how UPSC sets the question paper and how thorough your understanding is. But you can surely try ahead if you don't have enough time and this prelims in 40 days. I think that is the only thing you can do. You can't sit down and start reading current affairs magazines of the last 9 months. So you can probably do a thorough revision and thorough study of these yearly compilations only. The mistakes that I did in my first attempt to overcome, that I overcame in my second, right? Firstly, I did not give enough time. I wouldn't consider that as a mistake because I was in my final year of engineering. So I didn't really have much time. I would attend morning college classes in the morning and RAU'S classes in the evening. Try my best to do current affairs in the night. So I didn't give it enough time. Secondly, my graduation formally happened in May 5th and prelims was on June 4th. So it was only 1 month gap, which I tried my best, in which I tried my best to study, but it was not enough. So my foremost problem was time. I could not take out time. Secondly, I think more than mistakes, I learned a lot from my preparation itself. At that point of time only, I realized that current affairs magazines are good. So I have to start that for my next attempt, which I started. And then at that point of time only, I realized that it's really difficult to stay consistent in this exam. The next 1 year, for someone who was used to studying only one day before the exam, if I have to sit down and study for an exam that's 1 year away, it's really difficult. And I have to manage that really well. So I had warning signs more than mistakes, I think. After the service that I'm getting, okay. I will be getting IRS, as sir mentioned, most likely. If there are enough vacancies, maybe IPS, but I can't really say. It will come up maybe 2 months later. So that I can't really say. Um, I think there's a difference between being happy with what you have and wanting to do more, right? This is something that we, again, in our own groups where we have all cleared the exam, this comes up multiple times. You know, this exam kind of makes you greedy, right? Pehle to you have to come in the list. Any service is okay. Then first, so you have to clear prelims. It doesn't matter what happens after that. Then you clear prelims, then you're like, oh, I have to clear means I've come this far. Then you give the interview, I've come this far, I have to give the interview, make it into the list. And then your aim naturally becomes higher, right? So I am happy if I think IRS is a great service, but then there's also a part of me that says, okay, you have enough attempts, you have time, you have the zeal, so why not go ahead and give an attempt, see if you can get a better rank next time. So which is if I'll be giving. Okay. Yeah. I will be giving another attempt and hopefully a better rank with God's grace. Yeah. Thank you. Right. I have not appeared for forest services. That is not something that I applied for in the first place, but I did have friends. So whatever little knowledge that I gained from my friends, I can tell you. You'll have extra optional that you'll have to study. If you're only giving forest, your preparation will be a little more different. You have to score higher in prelims. Your cutoff will be a little more higher. And obviously your interview also will be more focused on environment and forests, etc. Your mains, you have to give another extra optional, and the optional subjects also varies a little. So you'll have to look at the technical details of it. And also the forest officers who wrote prelims with me, their interviews are still going on. So the results and the amount of time the exam takes also extends with respect to forest services. I think mains, as long as your answer is relevant to the question. If the question calls for more dimensions, then go ahead, give more dimensions. If the question is asking you to explain something particular, you cannot go ahead and give more dimensions to that. I'm assuming that you're asking about dimensions in economic, political, that sense, right? There are some questions which have general questions, right? There you can have an approach of more dimensions. But again, it depends on the question. If the question is asking you to technically explain the powers of president, you can go ahead with giving the dimensions of executive, judicial, and legislative powers. That will become your dimensions, correct? But if the question is asking you something where you can explore, where you can, for example, cybersecurity, you can take different dimensions here with respect to who is standing where. So you have government, which can make better rules, and then you have the judiciary, which can apply the better rules. Then you have people who have to have better awareness of the rules and what are the safety measures that you have to take to not fall into a cybersecurity trap. So your dimensions will depend on the kind of question that is asked. But then most of the time what happens is there are 10 markers and 15 markers in mains, right? For the 10 markers, you'll generally have two subheadings, generally speaking. And for the 15 markers, you'll have three subheadings. And that will be determined by the question itself. So it really depends on the question. But yes, definitely having a very precise approach in mains will help you save a lot of time. I think sociology is a little too theoretical for me. As someone who comes from a science background, I wouldn't really mind. For instance, in PSR, you'll have to have a lot of thinkers in the tip of your fingers. For me, remembering that is easier than going through a lot of theoretical concepts in sociology. There are different kinds of people, right? Lots of conceptual things and theoretical things. They make me a little sleepy, if I can be honest. So I think PSR was a safer option for me. Is there anything else you want me to answer in particular? Okay, okay. My first attempt was in 2022. So about 1 year ago, I mean, 1 year before that I started. So 2021, maybe June, I think I got into RAU'S, the June batch, yeah. Yeah. I used to come to the hall here. I think there's a second campus. No, I used to come here every day and I used to study. Okay.
So we'll be done with today's session. And thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I just want to take a minute to thank you all for bearing with me, for attentively listening to me. I hope that I made at least 0.1% things clear for you in your journey of UPSC. And I really hope and pray that all of you will clear the exam. And whenever it is you have to write 2024, 2025, I hope that we get to see each other in service. And all the very best for all of you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who attended online as well. Thank you. And thank you for RAU'S team again. Thank you so much, sir. Himanshu sir, Daya sir, all of them who coordinated with me so wonderfully. I was initially feeling really low because I got 800s rank. I was not very happy with it. Like I said, the exam makes you a little greedy. But having these kind of interactions that I've had with my teachers, it does give you a sense of gratitude. So I'm very grateful, and it's an honor to come here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Team RAU'S.